Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Climate Emergency Centre Wednesday night webinar. Every week we have incredible speakers and presenters. We go out to a network of now it's over about 35 climate emergency centres, groups using vacant shops on the high street to set up environment, community spaces, particularly focused on community-led solutions and how we can get on with things. Now, one of the things that really interests me about tonight is Peter Anderson's been working on something for a long time. What he's talking about tonight is a COSI or a cooperating system. He'll be telling you more. But for many years, we've been painting banners and things that say system change, not climate change. Well, what does system change actually look like? We know what system we're currently in, a system of competition and consuming the planet and things. How can we shift to a cooperating system? How can we shift to a system that's actually regenerative for the earth, for the environment, for all people? And how can we get cooperating? So we're quite excited by this. So I'll pass over to Peter, who's been in the digital community world for many, many decades. Tell us more about it, Peter. Thank you so much for coming. Over to you, to cooperating system.
Right, thank you, Felix. That's great. What a lovely introduction, and great to be here with you all tonight. And it's fantastic to hear the response to the film screenings as well. I'm gonna just mention this at the beginning and at the end. Please do try to capture people's contact details when people come to your events. And if you'd like some help with that, please reach out because obviously if 40, 50, 60 people come to your event and you haven't got contact details, then that's an opportunity lost. So please reach out if you're not already doing that. So as Phoenix said, yes, we're all marching up down the high streets, chanting system change, not climate change. But who's actually building this system that we want, and what does it look like? So these are the sort of questions that I've been grappling with for probably 25 years now. If I just give you a little bit of background, I was into IT about 25 years ago in the era of Dreamweaver and fireworks when Flash was a big thing. Some of you may have heard of it. And so that's where I sort of made my name and I set up an IT company and we ended up with a team of 10 after 3 years in Pembrokeshire, based in Haverfordwest. And we were building websites for all sorts of different types of organizations. Um, but social groups approached us and said, we hear you build really good websites. What can you do for us? And it became clear that they really had very little capacity. They had very little money, and they were, largely disempowered. And I just thought, well, here we are, sort of empowering the commercial sector, the extractive sector, but the regenerative sector, the third sector, is largely disempowered. And if we want to look after the planet and maintain the planet, then surely the regenerative sector needs to level up. It needs support to ultimately to become more empowered than the extractive sector. If the extraction on Earth exceeds the regenerative capability, then obviously we head towards extinction, and that's where we all know we're headed. So ultimately, we all need to ensure that the regenerative capacity of the Earth exceeds the extractive. So that means that there has to be a massive empowerment in the third sector. And so that's what I've been grappling with for the last 25 years. And listening to people like Jonathan Porritt and Vandana Shiva, Satish Kumar, interestingly, when they would talk about the issues, the environmental issues, for 95% of their talk, and then at the end of their talk, they would say things like the answers are actually local democracy and community empowerment. And so I was looking around the room then for which of these environmentalists are focused on local democracy. And there weren't many because most of the people in the room are focused on environmental projects, the solar projects, the biodiversity project. And so at that time, this was around 2008 now when Rob Hopkins was launching Transition, I'd already been trying to build a local resource management system. So how can we possibly organize if we can't see the resources that exist in the community, the empty buildings, the skills in the community, all the rest of it? That was called Localize, Local EYES. And that actually won a Revolutionary Award at number 10 in 2008, where I was nominated as the one to watch from Nesta and given the Revolutionary Award from Gordon Brown. And I thought at that point, we'd made it. we've been discovered, fantastic, we can crack on. They kind of gave me a £10,000 check, and obviously you can't really build the system that we want with £10,000. So the ideas have always been about building civic infrastructure for empowerment, and you're going to need a lot more to be able to achieve those aims. So from there, with the focus on local democracy, I started asking who is focusing on local democracy then? And if you look at local democracy, you find the ward structure and the parish council structure. So, what residents are engaged in the wards? Do we even know which ward we live in? Do ward councillors engage residents in an effective way? And obviously, that's not the case. Most people have got no idea which ward they live in. And when it comes to democracy, we have no idea what our priorities are. Because where's the infrastructure to understand priorities of the 1,500 people or 5,000 people, 10,000 in some cases in our community? And if we don't understand the priorities of our community, then how can we possibly organize? And how can we possibly signal to anyone else, the politicians, councils, the people with the budgets, these are the things that we want? So I did that for 10 years. That was called Vocalize with a Vocal, EYES. And that was about laying down a grassroots democratic infrastructure for geographic communities. But we also piloted it or proved it in primary schools, secondary schools, colleges, universities, housing associations. So that was going to be really successful. And then from there, the aim obviously was to roll out to all of the geographic communities. One of the key big issues with direct democracy, though, was you're sort of asking people to prioritize things without giving them the context of thing that you're asking them to prioritize. So if you do democracy in local communities, people tend to prioritize the things that they can, the dog poo bins, the park benches, the allotments. But in reality, it's a bit like going to the doctor without doing a blood test and a urine test, right? It's only once you've done those tests, then you look at the data and you can see all of those indicators on screen. So, as you're probably aware, there's a huge amount of data for local communities from the Environment Agency, national statistics, satellite data, and we can use these to build up pictures of health of our local community. But again, most people don't know where to find this data. It's not easily accessible. So essentially, if we want to cooperate across networks, across communities, there's an entire infrastructure that needs to be built. So the data needs to be brought to the surface. Our priorities need to be brought to the surface. We need to be signaling strongly. We can then see trends then across the priorities, and budgets need to be brought to the surface so they can be allocated and all the rest of it. So that's essentially what the cooperating system is about. It's about building a suite of interconnected tools to enable and empower our movement in a sense. So I'll go to some slides now after that introduction.
Great. Yep, we can see that. Just make it large. That's good. This is what we need, folks, a cooperating system. Share your ideas and
The ultimate
resources,
aim is to
skills.
enable ways of coordinated action. We're all aware of excellent case studies of projects, people, entrepreneurs who have solved various different issues. They've cleaned up the water in their river. They might have tackled air pollution. They might have tackled poverty in their community. Maybe they've improved soil quality. But these solutions generally at the moment are in silo. The ambition here is to support moving from silo working through to waves of coordinated action around those projects. That's the new capability that I would like to see this system enable. But to do that, as I say, we need a whole infrastructure to support that. So, I've been through most of the issues there. All right, so I'm just going to crack on. But ultimately, pathway to action really needs to start. It's just like the health process that we're already familiar with our doctor, understanding the data. And that might be an indicator at the local level or personal level, like BMI, household level energy performance, EPCs, community level, air quality, water quality, soil quality, area or global level, atmospheric CO2, blah, blah, blah. And then moving through to understanding the challenges, the solutions, the things we can do about it, the case studies, who's already done it that we can learn from, and then who else in our network or across the country has got similar challenges and solutions. So let's hook up with those people so that next week we can be on then a Zoom call and doing a 6 week how to implement, uh, create action plans for the things that are important. Um, so the best way to think of Cozy is really at 4 levels at the moment. No doubt those levels will extend, but it really sort of delivers on 4 levels at the moment. So the first level is the stakeholder engagement, and that's the level we've kind of been talking about. It's pathways to action, it's local democracy, participatory budget. That infrastructure doesn't exist in our communities, and we need to embed it. But it is kind of difficult. It's hard work. There are um, other things that we can do in the short term for that. The second level is websites. We need a front door. Each one of your organizations has got its own branding, its own mission. You're focused on different parts of the problem and the solution. So you need your own website. So if you're familiar with WordPress and Wix, it's a bit like that, but essentially you can display any of the 2,500 content items that already exist. You can turn your website into a node instead of being a siloed website. It can be part of a large network. So take transition towns, for instance, 450 siloed websites where they're all trying to create similar content, trying to do similar levels of engagement, but they're not interconnected. Um, so then, so that's the website element. I'm going to show you all of these things live in a minute. And then the next level is back office. How organized are you personally with your initiative? Are you using a contact relationship management system, a CRM? How are you managing these opportunities? Right, you might have talked to someone in the street. Today, you might have met 30 people tonight or yesterday, at the NEB screening.
Mhm.
And potentially there's lots of opportunities with all of those. How are you managing all of those opportunities in your area and make sure that they don't slip through the net? So that's the back office side of things. Let's use CRMs really effectively. It saves us an awful lot of time. A lot of us will already be using Excel sheets like that. And then the fourth level is the network enablement. If you're running a network like Phoenix and Gen are with the CEC, you've got 74 nodes in that network, 74 centers at different stages of development. How are you tracking that? And then if the 74 centers have all got at least 100 opportunities each, that's, you're nearing on 10,000 opportunities in your network with thousands of different people, with thousands of skills. And then you can imagine the commonality across that network. How are we bringing those people together? So there's a huge number of opportunities lost at the moment through a lack of capability and tooling and training and capacity. And that's for no fault of their own. Right? It costs a huge amount of money to be able to lay down in. So that's kind of where we're at. So what I'm going to do now is jump into the website itself. So we'll start with the level one, which is the stakeholder engagement. So pathways to action is probably the core tool here, but there are several. And to explore the services, you can jump onto the 9 squares up here. By the way, the URL is co-sy.org, and that is short for cooperating system. So all the services are from the top menu here, or if you want to jump into the services in more detail, there's a service directory from the footer down at the bottom there. And you've got all of those in more detail, and they've all got a link then to a live service that you can explore. And if you want to explore the platform yourself, there's a next step button here, which actually, if you just keep clicking on the top link in that, it'll take you through the entire site. So there's about 50 links, right? So you don't actually, if you just click on that, you'll explore most of the site. The other piece while I'm here is this support button here. The whole point here is really that the invitation is to co-create the civic infrastructure that we need. So if you begin to engage
Nice.
people in a certain way, you want to engage people in a certain way, you think, oh, I need a dashboard with a certain amount of data and a certain number of documents and a certain number of people with a certain type of skills, you can put a request in for those types of features, and we will aim to attempt to build it. And as we gain more capacity, there's this the speed at which we can respond to those requests will speed. So this is not like delivering a static tool like Slack or Facebook or MailChimp. This is a responsive tool, more like an organism where we intend to respond. We can respond to simple requests in 24, 48 hours, and obviously larger requests in a lot longer time. So, right, so these are the stakeholder engagement tools. I was going to take you then, I'll jump into pathways to action. So as you can see, there's an awful lot on code, but pathways to action are the user experience that you can share with residents, students, tenants. There are around, like I say, I think 2,500 content items mapped to around 60 different indicators. So decide which indicators are relevant to your organization, and that could be anything from a personal indicator, body mass index, to a community indicator, a household indicator, it could be phosphates, could be energy performance, could be a global indicator. First, energy imbalance, I think you'll probably agree is something that everybody needs to know something about. So then there's some quick start pathways here, and on the overview page, it just tells you the process. You're going to understand the indicator, you're going to capture the current value, tell you what it means, challenges, solutions, case studies, and then we're going to move on to collaboration. So let's take, so I'll take one on EPC, energy performance for my street. I'm going to take two. I'm going to do EPC and then I'm going to do biodiversity at the global level, just so you get a flavour for local and global factors. And I'll be off into level 11. So it's telling me about EPC. A lot of people don't even know what an EPC is, right? Let
Sorry,
alone
Peter, can I just check? Are you still screen sharing? Because I can't see your screen at the moment, if you wanted to be or not.
says I'm sharing.
I can see it, Phoenix.
Okay, all right, carry on.
Thank
Okay,
you.
all right.
You can see my screen. Can I get a thumbs up?
Yes, yes, I can see your screen. Can other
Okay, good,
people?
good.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Is the voice okay, Jen? Is it dropping out too much?
Yeah, just a little tiny bit, but it's pretty good. Yeah, just occasional words here and there. Your microphone isn't picking up.
Okay. So in this case, we're learning about EPC. It's telling me the EPC for my household. It's then showing me some more detail about that. And in this case, I'm doing it for the street. So it's showing me the EPC for everybody on my street, which is quite illuminating in itself. And a little chart on how the distributed. Next, it's giving me the assessment. So we're going through that doctor's process. Here's the assessment. What does it mean for me having this value on my EPC? And then it's going to talk to me about challenges. Can I relate to any of these challenges? So instead of having to type everything in, everything's already preloaded. You can add your own gestures if necessary, but I would hope that most of the things that people would suggest are already in here. So if you see a challenge that you relate to, let's say, yeah, maybe difficult to usage, I can set that as a priority. Then we're on to solutions. Okay, what can I do about it? I can switch to a renewable energy supplier. I could pin that. I can say that I've done that. I've switched up. Right. And then I think solar panels, are they a good choice? Yeah, we're planning to do that. And heat pumps, yeah, that's something that's actually in progress. All right. And then from each one of these content items, if I just jump into one of them, let's say there's several thousand of them already populated on the site. So you don't have. So they're all sort of written out, and then there's 10 to 15 tasks on every different solution, and it tells you what your next task is to do on that particular thing. So if it's renewable energy supply, you need to find your energy needs. And if you want to get a bit more technical about it, you could set those tasks onto a timeline if you're into Gantt charts and all of that sort of stuff. Next, it shows you relevant YouTube videos. it shows you podcasts, images, and then it's feeding in academic papers. So depending on what evidence you want. Then it taps into Google Places so that you can see what suppliers there are locally. Renewable suppliers. It's just trying to speed up and sort of reduce the amount of pain that you might go through trying to collate this data, reduce the barriers to moving forward. So that's solutions. And then there's case studies. There's around 800 case studies in there, real case studies of people that have done all those different things, mapped to those 60 different indicators. Next, it shows me the next tasks for the things that I've prioritized. So I've said install solar hot water, water heating is a priority, heat pump, and it will send you an email weekly or daily, depending on what you prefer. So, because that's the thing with ChatGPT, obviously, it gives us all the information in the world. It's the global brain, but it doesn't follow up with you the following day and go, how you getting on with that? So that's what we're trying to do here. And then it scans the database for who else has got similar priority to you, similar challenges, similar solutions. And you can make a connection request, or you can create a Zoom call Tuesday where we can all go and talk about it. So you can do that in the context of your group, in the context of your group, or you could do that in the context of the network or in the context of the community. So that's how you kind of move from data, understanding an indicator, perhaps for the first time, understanding the value of that indicator to your priorities, the democracy piece, the engagement piece, through to coordinated action. And then, so next week, if that was, say, river health, right, we know 99% of the rivers are dead in the United Kingdom. There must be 2 or 3 people in every community that care. If you as local CECs run a water quality pathway to action with your residents, we could be running then a Zoom call every week for the next 6 weeks, say on a Tuesday evening, with those 2 or 3 people where they can meet each other locally, but they can also meet each other across, and we can co-create those actions. So then there's more there.
Now, that's very big, Peter. You know, a lot of the centres want to help support their local rivers. There's a citizen science project. If people could collate data on local environmental situations, that's really useful.
Citizen science is a massive thing. I don't know if you're aware, but there are kits now where kids can build the indicator monitors that you need to gather the data. So where there are gaps in environmental data, like on the Environment Agency website, or air quality, water quality, soil quality, biodiversity, the kids in the schools can actually build the monitors and go out and get first-hand experience then of actually gathering data. I think that's
brilliant.
Every single school should have monitor on it, right? Air quality and all the rest of it. And going through the schools like that is actually a really effective way then to reach households. So have a conversation with about EPC. EPC leads you to all sorts. So I'm going to stop there because we're sort of running out of time, and I want to get onto the other 4 levels. But you kind of get the idea of what a stakeholder engagement is and what a pathway to action is, and any pathway to action on around. The next level is the website. So if you've got a website or you've built websites before, you're probably familiar with WordPress and Wix. So that's essentially what this is. Let's go into the client emergency center website that I built for them. So it's got the basic things, you know, your basic page editor that you'll already be familiar with custom blocks, pages, right? So a whole bunch of blocks. You can put in galleries and text, images and testimonials, all the normal stuff. But then it's got a whole
Peter, sorry, just a quick comment from someone on the chat about the sound quality is poor sometimes. Maybe just try and hold your mic as close to your mouth as possible, or whatever helps to improve. Somebody give us a thumbs up if it helps when Peter does that. Over. Keep going. It's great.
Apologies. So yes, the custom page builder there, but then there are a whole, if you've ever used WordPress, you'll be familiar with plugins and you can plug in almost anything, but that's quite a headache. And a lot of people, it's probably beyond a lot of people. Here, all the services that you might want are already seamlessly sort of integrated. So they're just one click. So you go to features, you want a learner management system to put courses on, or if you want a knowledge base, or if you want quiz questions, whatever it might be. So obviously in this case, we turned on the directory. So we wanted to see a directory of the map. Obviously you've got a map on your own website, but there's one of those. But then there's all that indicator data as an example. So this one is pulling in indicator data around Earth health. Okay, so there's around 30 what's called APIs integrated at the moment. There are actually around 1,500 APIs available. So they're databases of data who are prepared to share their data. So we hope to integrate all of them eventually. That we've only done 30 so far, but these are some of them. So these are telling me what the Living Planet Index is today. It's saying 27.27, which basically means we've lost 63% of biodiversity since 1970. I've done that for a second. Earth's energy imbalance is 1 watt per square meter, which is the equivalent of 500,000 Hiroshimas a day. I've done that for a second. Ecological footprint is 1.78. Atmospheric CO2, 427. Okay, so they're global indicators. But so then you can jump into any of those and you can actually see the graph of the data, where the data is actually coming from, revalidated by multiple sources, and it shows you, how the data has transformed over time. So I'm sure all of you are familiar with a lot of this data, but is it readily accessible and comparable? So this is the website. You kind of get the flavor now. So whether you're doing, local democracy and our priorities, or whether you're doing participatory budgeting, you can basically demonstrate all of these things in your own branding on your own site. Next level up is level 3, which is the back office tool. About you personally being a lot more organized, your organization. How are you managing all of those opportunities? So that's a CRM, a contact relationship. You've probably heard of things like HubSpot, SugarSuite, like that. So, but it's fully integrated into the website. So all the inquiries in your forms go directly into the CRM. So there's no configuration to do. I personally, this one page here keeps my life organized, because you can imagine I have the same problem that you lot all have as well. We all have the same problem. How am I going to manage all the opportunities? Okay, so since I've trolled through my inbox, I managed to put 82 opportunities into this, and every day it just emails me and says, Pete, you need to crack on with that unlimited application and meet with a web list. So I can just rest easy at night knowing that no opportunities ever slip through the net, because you always just set a new follow-up date.
That's a great thing. I need to find that one afterwards for some opportunities in, Pete. That's brilliant.
Jess, this is a task that we all take on personally, actually, in terms of being the change. If we want to genuinely do community organizing, we need to organize ourselves a lot better, because community organizing is genuinely difficult, right? And especially if we're trying to hold contacts and opportunities and all that sort of stuff in random Excel sheets and Google Docs and God knows what else. So there's a whole bunch of tools here. I won't go through now, but like a really interesting one is a scheduler. So if you're trying to arrange meetings with people in international time zones, you can add all of those people and it shows you all the time zones for them, and it shows you the overlap and possible. But just really interesting tools. And the other probably most interesting one in here is the accounting. Like, well, you've got the MailChimp style thing, so you can send out newsletters, but then you've got your accounting payments for when the opportunity. So that's level 3. Level 4 then is the network level. Now you probably all know networks, and no doubt most of them are disempowered and struggling to engage with their network, or at least get the most out of them. There'll always be more you can do, and how are you going to do that on limited capacity? So if we look at the Climate Emergency Centre network, for instance, so for Dent and Phoenix, it's a case of giving them a dashboard on how they so that they can see the activity across all of these, and just saves an awful lot. So what we've done for the CEC network is create 74 CRMs. We've integrated the 74 CRMs into 74 websites, and there's a website there waiting for you if you would like it. So that's a conversation for each of you to have with your group to see whether this is something that you would like to use. It doesn't have to be a replacement of your existing website. It can be just an addition to, just like Facebook is an addition to. But for those that are starting out and don't have a website yet, this can be your website. You can designate a custom domain to that, so you can buy a URL and point it to your website. So that's a website built on Cozy CoSpace. So you've got all the options that you want there. So yeah, another invitation to you really is have that conversation with the group, see if they're interested in exploring this. If they are, nominate any number of people, really, 1, 2, 3 people from your group to explore it. Then we'll make those people administrators, and we're running the next training session next Thursday at 6 o'clock, is it?
Yep, I think I posted it in the chat a little bit back. I'll post it.
6:30 till 8 o'clock.
Yeah, 6:30. So I've been going on a while, and I think you get that's. I'll just go back to the slides just to see what I've missed. But they're the sort of main key takeaways. The 4 levels of engagement: the stakeholder engagement tools, level 1; the websites, level 2; the back office tools, level 3; the network enablement, level 4. Then I'm not going to go into all of it. I'll share these slides so that you can delve into more detail as you wish. So just coming back to the calls to action, really. Take a pathway to action if you're interested. Choose an indicator. Let's see what the experience is, but also engage in co-creating the platform. If you think something where the platform will be improved, then click on the life ring. As someone said the other day, for instance, I was listening to a podcast, the Great Simplification with Nate Hagens. I don't know, a little wave for anyone who listens to that. Absolutely awesome podcast. They were talking about species loss. I don't know, and aliens, and how ridiculous it is that we're looking for aliens in space when we already live with around 200,000 species of alien on planet Earth, and most of us are ridiculously poor at communicating with them. So what makes us think that we're going to be any better at communicating with aliens in space? And for aliens that live on planet Earth, like whales, for instance, we turn them into dog meat and oil and all the rest of it. So, we don't have a great track record of communicating with aliens at the moment. And so on the homepage of Cozy, this really made it personal, I think, added a lot of heart to it. So going beyond the CO2 data and all the rest of it, 41% of amphibians are at risk, 26% of mammals, 34% of conifers, 11% of all birds, 38% of all sharks, and the rest of it. So that's all there for you to discover. And there's a species explorer here where you can.
That's brilliant, Peter. There's so much in there.
There we are. You go back to these calls to action. Take a pathway to action. Identify 1 or 2 or 3 people. Come to the training next week. Consider which groups and networks that you're engaged with might benefit from this. Consider collaboration roles. If you want to collaborate with Cozy, we need all the capacity we can get, to create this community organizing infrastructure. These are the digital tools, but they're no good without people. And obviously there are also sustainable revenue streams that anyone who wants to begin to explore that, you can be selling these services to councils who want to implement climate emergency action plans. As an example, they will be struggling with how to transition 100,000 households, improve their energy performance. So offering them a pathway to action on EPC and supporting that engagement is something that you can do and that you can be paid for, right?
Cool.
That they will pay. A college or a university would pay anywhere between £3,000 and £7,000 a year for student engagement. Housing associations similar. So there are revenue streams here for your organisations to
Oh,
begin to build up a smaller.
okay. Peter, should you want to draw to summary and then we'll go for some questions?
Yep, exactly. We've just had investment in the last couple of days, just small investment, but it has meant that we can begin to employ our first community organisers, or the first regenerative jobs. And so I'd just say that the profits from the company are basically going to go into regeneration jobs. So there's a lot of talk about AI and how AI is going to take our jobs, but if you think of the amount of work that is required to regenerate the planet, right? I don't think people consider those jobs because it's not clear who's paying. So the opportunity here is to co-create the civic infrastructure, bring that wealth that we currently offer to social media companies, extractive corporations, bring it into the hands of a civic cooperative, essentially, and co-own and co-create the infrastructure that we use every day and hold the value ourselves, reinvest that value into regenerative jobs, and that becomes the future.
Beautiful.
So please consider investment. That's the last call to action. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Peter. That's really, really powerful. We really need to shift to this, cooperative system and looking at our current unsustainable system and how we're going to begin that transition. And here is a tool to help us with that, folks. So I want to say a few bits, but just before I do that, just to say, if people want a question, a comment, a feedback, you can, down at the bottom, there's a little heart reaction shape icon, and you can raise a hand like that. I think Laurie was first up in the chat, and then Mark had a hand up. But if you want to put your hands up using the reaction tab down the bottom, we can see who is one, two, three. I just wanted to say a couple of bits just briefly was, this is building the civic infrastructure for a sustainable future. We are in a competition system that is destroying our air and water supply and species all around us very, very quickly. And we need to shift and change that system. And what at the Climate Emergency Centre Network, we're excited about this with this system with Peter. This is his dedicated life for 25 years to get community digital infrastructure come together. And, if we can get this working across the Climate Emergency Centre Network and many other groups and projects that, we've been part of a movement of movements for 35 plus years, we can be sharing skills, ideas, resources, regenerative jobs. One of the things when Peter went through it, there was a very simple, the local democracy, a whole nother level. One of the things in the CC handbook is about getting community assemblies going in each of the centres or out in the local parks. But Pete had a very simple system. On this system, you can put up in your local Birmingham, Brighton, or Bristol group some proposal of an idea. Within the 100, 200, 1,000 people on that group, they can vote up those 3 or 4 different proposals to see which are the most popular. And then you can form a working group to make that proposal actually happen, to get involved, to make that renewable energy, to make that tree planting party happen, whatever it is you want to do. So it's really exciting in terms of local democracy and, you know, preparing resilient communities. If we can share across the network, we have these skills in this centre and we have these resources. When a flood does come or when issues arise, we are more resilient communities by being able to share skills and resources and all the rest. One other thing there, if there's a way that we can record what groups are discussing from the national emergency briefing, would be fantastic. So a few more bits to be said there, but let's come over to questions, and please do put your hand up. We like to hear from a diversity of questions and things. So little heart shape down the bottom, raise your hand. I think Laurie was first. Don't know whether Mark put his hand down again, and then Helen. Put your
Yeah,
hand up, folks.
hi.
Laurie.
Peter, this is looks really impressive. My question, do you already have contacts or are you working with the democracy groups? I know the democracy network, is sort of being reformed, but there are groups, local democracy, citizens network.
No,
Okay, I would love to post that some information, but I think more, is there something that I can pull up from your site, I guess, and then
Yeah, if you scroll to the bottom of the homepage and click on
yeah,
About,
okay.
there
We'll
is
do
a
that.
whole ton of stuff there around democracy, participatory budgeting, that sort of stuff. And if there's not enough there, just send me a
No, I'm sure
message.
that'll be enough, I'm sure, for the people to take it and run with it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to present anytime, any place.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Just on that point, Laurie, we're looking to link up with Trust the People, the Humanities Project, Time to Assemble, and see if we can get more kind of community assemblies running off the back of the public People's Emergency Briefing. And we'd like to maybe talk to those groups about using this system, but that's a conversation that's part way through a process.
Yeah, of Phoenix, I would say, yeah, just either reach out to me, or any of those people should also be in this sort of um, these chats. It's through the there's one for local democracy specifically.
Well,
So
Send us a contact. Like, go on.
if you
we'll do.
submit a contact request, a contact form there on the About site, Laurie, you'll go straight into my CRM, and then
Yep, great. We'll
and
do.
then I'll
Thanks.
definitely follow up with you.
Thanks.
Opportunities. Over to Helen. Thank you, Laurie. Bless. Laura, Helen, and any others, pop your hands up. Comment, feedback, question. Helen Plowman. Is that Helen in sunny
Right,
Southampton?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, 007. Go for it. And Mark Dick.
Yeah, I put a question in the Q&A box as well, because I'm not sure if I'm going to put this right, but so I'm part of a workers' co-op, right? So I understand workers' co-ops, and I'm also have some relationship with local community interest companies, some of which are membership co-ops. But you use the word cooperative, but that's sort of in a generic sense, is it? Not in any kind of, does it reflect your internal democracy, is my question. In terms of your company, how is it owned and run? Because you call yourself a cooperative, so, well, you don't, but you do. So it's sort of confusing for me.
No, I don't. We haven't called ourselves a cooperative. No, it is a cooperating system, and we are currently registered as a limited company called Cooperating System Limited. That's partly because the previous enterprise I set up as a CIC, and it got nobbled, taken over because I wasn't able to maintain control.
Very hard.
Yeah,
Governance is
exactly. It got
hard.
very difficult, and that was after 20 years of work, and it all got taken away. So I had
Yeah.
to completely restart from scratch.
Big problem with cooperatives can be if you're not careful.
And if you look at most cooperatives, they fail to fulfill the first line in their constitution, which is democratic engagement of members. Like not maybe not yours, but if you ask a member of a cooperative, do you feel democratically engaged? Most will say no. A lot of cooperatives are not cooperative. This is if you go onto the About site and have a read about platform cooperative. That is so certainly our ambition is to be cooperative, whether we constitute as a cooperative or whether there's another a cooperative entity that surrounds platform in the future is totally open for debate, really. I'm not an expert on cooperatives, and I certainly haven't got first-hand experience of vibrant cooperatives that are fulfilling all of its
That's what
mission,
I
right?
was.
So as much as the ambition is there, um, the process of a platform cooperative is different. Most cooperatives set up and then they look for tooling to enable the democratic engagement. So they use MailChimp and Facebook and all the tools that are really not fit for purpose. But the platform cooperative, the point there is you develop tooling that brings about new ways of working. And so, as an example, if 10 of people in this room, for instance, went out and started delivering local democracy services in their community because they've got the tooling now to be able to do that, those 10 people can set up a workers' cooperative around the platform. And that's what a platform cooperative is. You enable
Nice.
the behavior first and build a cooperative around that.
Okay,
rather than
No.
stating an ambition.
Okay, we've got a couple of other questions there, and time's on. So Mark and then Marcus. Mark Dick, I don't know earlier than Marcus. Thank you, Peter.
Uh,
And hold your mic close, Peter. It helps. Mark Dick, sorry.
okay, so thank you, Peter, for the presentation. That was great. I've just finished reading a book called Politics Without Politicians by Helen Landmore. And without going into all the details about the positive things about citizens' assemblies, she finishes up by saying you won't be able to change the system in one big jump. Probably citizens' assemblies will have to run alongside representative democracy. Um, but for that to happen, you're going to need to get some buy-in from the politicians to allow that process to take place. Do you see your platform being able to help that in any way?
Well, I don't think that is the case. If you think that it might be the case, but we are just we're not even up base number one as far as local democracy is concerned. None of our communities are expressing their common priorities. So, so we're not signaling to any politician what we want collectively at the moment. They've got nothing to go on other than their own surveys or house to house door knocking. So, so the first thing really is to establish, or not necessarily the first thing, it's obviously a hard thing, to establish local democracy in communities, and then you can aggregate that into common priorities across a district and then across a country, across a nation. And then you're signaling pretty strongly there towards the politicians. And for citizens' assemblies and things like that, obviously, it's an infrastructure that feeds into the people's assemblies and citizens' assembly. It runs alongside it. If you're coming together for a people's assembly, you might come together around the priorities that the communities have expressed. But just on that basis, you might be thinking, well, how are people going to find out about it? When I first started the project, this was now back in 2008, and I had the first case study in a ward where about 15% of the community had expressed ideas and rated and debated ideas, and about 15 of the ideas, 60 or 70 ideas, had come to fruition in about 6 weeks. And they were things like allotments and organic food at the local produce and stuff like that, simple things. The Western Telegraph, that has 160,000 weekly readers, basically offered us an 8-page insert for free. So you have homes in there with all the houses for sale. You have wheels in there with all the cars for sale. They wanted to offer us an 8-page insert called Voice. And in there was going to be the priorities from all 36 wards in Pembrokeshire, and then the working groups that were forming and the good news stories. What they could see, the value for them was all the user-generated content and all the good news stories. Obviously, I never got to the point where I managed to build the infrastructure to enable that to happen, and that's still the ambition. But I'm just giving you some level of the opportunity.
It's coming, and it's a good question there, Mark. And I think just a quick one there for Marcus on Jamie Kelsey Fry, who helped to write the People's Assembly handbook, I think, for the XR movement and was involved with the Occupy movement. He said Bristol City Council said you're knocking on an open door with regard to kind of community or people's assemblies. And if there is a way that we can actually have these assemblies, record them and share them back with the council and politicians, they may then start to realise these are the top priorities for our local communities and these is going to get us votes. And we need a bit of a feedback loop. That's a good question, Mark. Over to Marcus Simmons and then Genji. Thank you, Mark.
Oh yeah, thanks. I mean, it looks like really impressive tool, really comprehensive. Have I got it right that you're actually providing the hosting of web pages and email services and so on?
Yes, and not email at the moment, but yes to web pages.
Okay, and that being the case, how green is your hosting? Because that'd be another point in your favor if you've got a green source like Crystal do or Green Geeks do or whatever.
Good point. I can send you a policy document on that if you like. You want to drop your email in there?
I'll put it further up. I'll do it again.
Okay.
Brilliant. Good question, Marcus. And Peter, I don't know if you want to drop your email in so that people can contact direct or the contact link on the website or whatever's best for you. There's a good one there from Leroy, a collective in South London. Want to work on stuff. Maybe Leroy wants to say something. And say, Genji. Genji.
I just want to thank you so much, Peter. I really feel kind of moved, slightly tearful, about the amount of work that it's taken you to do this. And I can tell you that when I heard Peter speak of this at one of our meetings, was it like 6 weeks ago? It really felt similar to when someone said to me once, "Can you see the lime green in the sky?" And I hadn't seen it until someone pointed at it. So I just want to share that there's something about what, for me, that Peter's saying here that really feels like a piece has just slotted into place. Something about, kind of something I kind of dreamt of when I was really young, actually, to be honest with you. And so when you said something about, creating this civic infrastructure, co-creating a civic infrastructure, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that's it. I've been so used to it being an uphill struggle to connect and somehow share easily. And literally, it just seems like not only are you offering this to us, Peter, but you're wanting to co-create it with us. So straight away, I also feel like there's something about the ownership is much wider. It's a much more horizontal structure. I love this thing of moving from siloed working to coordinated action. I mean, really, and being a node, your website isn't just, I've got to go and look at each other person's website. Your website could be a node on a whole network. So I guess I just really wanted to thank you so much in that very open way. And something in the child in me is really met in this. And also to ask, would you be able to say a little bit more, Peter, about the whole thing of co-creating?
Okay, Peter, say a bit on that, and then maybe Leroy, a quick one. Anyone else? And we'll probably wind up soon with final comments from Peter. But Peter, do you want to go for that one? Cooperating? Jens?
I suppose a visual that comes to mind, I don't know if it's quite what you had in mind, but the visual I have in mind is if you imagine the Earth and you're looking at it from space, and every time a solar project or a water project or a different type of project happens, you get a different color light. So you get a yellow light for a solar project and a green light for a growing project and a blue light for a water base. And at the moment, our Earth is there, and these lights are flashing on and off all over the world. Amazing case studies, and Carbon Copy got lots of them on their website. And I think the new capability that we can enable is the waves of coordinated action, and it's a bit like flicking the switch on your Christmas tree lights. Suddenly you get a different level of coherence, right? And now there's this waves of yellow light, there's waves of blue light, there's waves of green light, as we all join Zoom calls every Tuesday for 6 weeks and discover, adapt, and replicate those successful templates in our local community. And so, if you were to look at that from a neurological perspective, that would be the birth, wouldn't it? The growing of an entity that is becoming more conscious. So there's that element of it. The other element, if we're just getting a bit biological for a minute, the foundations of the theory of this are as well grounded in biomimicry around what can we learn from cells? Because cells have been around on the planet, obviously, ever since the beginning of life. And cells are incredibly good at self-organizing. And there's a lot of parallels. I mean, I just started off with the basic parallels that obviously cells have DNA in them, and the DNA are templates for proteins for a healthy body. And a lot of organizations sort of use that language, sort of, well, we want DNA for a healthy organization. So I'm thinking, well, actually, if we consolidate all the best projects that exist on the planet today, and people like Center of Alternative Technology and Friends of the Earth have done a lot of that work already, that is the DNA for a healthy planet. But what we need is the mechanics at the human level to be able to transcribe a gene into RNA, into a single template, based on feedback, right? But we're not getting that feedback at the moment because we're not looking at the data, right? But the health of the body has that. So based on the health of the system, you transcribe the relevant gene into RNA, and then it hits a ribosome, and the ribosome translates the template because it organizes the enzymes, i.e., the people, into proteins, i.e., projects. And that's just like 4 or 5 different elements of a cell. But on the about site there, you'll see about 40 different elements of a cell. And so my question is, do we have all of those elements, and what would they look like at a societal level? And what's going wrong in our society? What are the mistakes we're making that cells aren't? What can we learn? I think one of those
Mm.
mistakes is just how we hold on to power. No cell holds on to power, right? And it's that and that element that is a big problem. Anyway, that was a bit sort of
Brilliant.
out there, but there you are.
Learn from nature.
Yeah.
It's called biomimicry. How can we be more cooperative? Like survival of the most cooperative, I think, is what we need. Um, so just say there is a training in the cooperating system, and we're hoping that as many of the 35 odd climate emergency centres already exist, or as Peter said, there's about 74 centres and groups at different stages who'd like to set this, to set up centres. It would be great if some of them set up these cooperating systems. Leroy, do you just briefly want to say a little bit about your project and you were interested in setting up a cooperating? Leroy Pinder? How's that
Yeah.
great project?
Sorry. Hi. I'm at work.
Cool.
Didn't mean to hijack the speaking or anything, but
No, let's
I was
go
just
for
trying
it. Welcome.
to. Yeah. We don't really have the infrastructure or sometimes the capacity to really like put a proper all the things that we sound great, our cooperative stuff and our transparency models and the online stuff. It's a bit hard when working with really green gardeners because gardeners sometimes A, they're not very extrovert in people who talk much, and B, gardeners aren't the type who are normally online. You're lucky to get them on the phone because all we talk about is trees and plants. But it would be great to kind of build networks with uh, similarly passionate groups such as this, so that we can expand our capacity to do so. And I really thank you for putting this out there and making it so invitational that I could tune in while I'm here at work, and be inspired by it. As I said, sometimes we rely on other collectives that also help similar groups. So we're off grid at our community gardens. We've got one. I don't know how well you know Southeast London, but one in Bellingham, which is both of them are in the borough of Lewisham. One in Bellingham and one in Catford.
Oh
Um,
yeah, no, yep.
and yeah, we don't have a lot of support, and we're often right alongside other allotment holders where we are, but we're doing amazing things. And like for example, right now I'm trying to introduce more crop cover techniques, rather than just selective, thinking of things as weeds and selective like cash crop that we're planting and stuff, like rather than that actually fixing the soil. Because yeah, the food, yeah, I'm preaching to the choir here. I don't know what I'm saying, but
It's
um,
important. No, it's cool. It's cool. This is what we
yeah,
need. Dig in for victory, Leroy.
yeah, literally. So exactly. But we've got connection that, as I said, we're an African and Caribbean cultural community, and we've got links locally. I, for one, own land in Kenya, the land of my
Ah.
birth, and so kind of connecting different communities and initiatives with land that we have access to. In Jamaica, some of our social media engineers, they're in Jamaica. We often go to West Africa as well, and mainly touching in with the indigenous practices. We were also on exhibit at the British Library earlier this year. If you've ever heard of
Brilliant.
co-creative, that might be how. But I hope to tune into the next webinar. But I just give thanks, and I'm going to go off now because Mr. Ladbrokes doesn't want me to.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely powerful is what we need. Link up globally, Leroy. My mates are really on the global one quite a while ago. That's a powerful tail end there one, folks. From Lewisham to to Jamaica to Kenya. We need to link up globally, global and local. And the only way we can do that is with the citizen infrastructure for cooperating. So thank you very much to Peter. Thank you for every one of the 52 odd people who came tonight. if anybody wants to set up a cooperating system, please do have an experiment with the system. You know, we need to move from competition to cooperation. There is a training session. I've put it there just in the chat. I think it's Thursday, 30th of April, 6:30 to 8. Peter will walk people through the system, get one set up for your whatever it is group, community, environment, people's emergency briefing, local gardening group, whatever it is. Let's get cooperating, sharing resources. When the storms of climate change hit, we have stronger, more resilient communities because we have cooperating systems, resilient systems, and getting together systems and helping each other of all ages, cultures, and creeds. So over back to Peter for final words. Really, thank you very much. If you want to draw the strings together, go for it, Peter. Thank you so much. A really powerful presentation. Let's get cooperating. Over.
Well, just say thanks. Thanks very much. This has been my first presentation for 5 years to a group. So, and it really is bang on mission. And I really hope that you know, I can meet a lot of you and we can do some work together in the very near future.
Okay, last question to you. If people are interested, how can people help? If they get in touch, is there people, if you want people to help with whatever it is from coding to funding to organizing, and have you put your email in the chat? Any last appeal for any ways that we can help boost this cooperating system, apart from coming on the 30th of April, I guess. Over.
Emails in the chat, and on the about site or even on the main site, if you look at opportunities to just under opportunities, you'll see collaboration roles, and there's about 20 different collaboration roles defined there. So choose a role that suits you, whether that's content curation, digital stuff, stakeholder engagement, what is it? And just put a small application there so that your interest is logged, and we'll hold you know, onboarding and training sessions going forward.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And you're just inspired me to say one other last bit there, just as we end. We are really hoping that this gets scaled up fast, folks, because it is absolutely critical. Watching the other week's webinar with Hugh Montgomery, you know, as long-term environmental activist since 92 Rio Earth Summit, it was really shown how absolutely critical it was. All of the graphs were going off the chart for how bad things could become over the next years. And watching Peter's presentation, there's things there like donut economics. You can see how bad we're exceeding the planetary boundaries and what we need to do with this system. And there's another guy we're going to get on who talks about using European Space Agency satellites to see where climate change is hitting. We can actually see where it's going to flood, like places like Hull, and we can get the tree planting party campaigns and people organized, cooperating to go to those areas and plant more trees, plant more hemp, whatever it is. We have to crack on with this cooperating system very, very fast, folks. So let's get it funded, resourced, and organized. Get involved, take action every day, keep networking the solutions. And next week, I was just trying to grab up the last next week's webinars. If Jen can help me, I'm just looking up there. But we've got some very big upcoming webinars coming up, very important ones that need to be seen for. So what are those ones previously? We got Hayley Fowler, I think, coming up. And we've got Lieutenant Richard Nugey is also coming up. Here we go. April next week is April 29th. Kate Rawls, who cycled all over South America, looking at extractivism and biodiversity loss. The 6th of May is with Professor Hayley Fowler, Professor of Climate Change Impacts at Newcastle University, one of the leading experts on extreme rainfall and flooding. And she's with the Tyndall Climate Centre, I think, as well. 13th of May, another national security briefing speaker, very important one, Lieutenant General Richard Nugey, who is a former British Army officer, and he will be talking about national security, climate security being a national security issue. So please tune in, same Zoom link on those weeks. And thank you very much to Peter. Let's get cooperating as fast as we can. Please engage. Keep networking, folks. See you next week.